As far as spellcasters in Dungeons and Dragons go, the Artificer is a whole new beast. We're going to talk about that. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Like I said yesterday, today we're talking about the spellcasting for Artificers, understanding the rules that they have to follow in casting their spells. So let's get into that. The big difference between Artificers and other spellcasters is their source of magic. Every spellcaster has a source of magic. Wizards study and learn from the books. Clerics get powers from the gods. Warlocks have sugar daddies that give them powers. Those kind of things, where Artificers actually get to use their tools to create their spells. Because of this, Artificers have a couple little rules that come into play while they're casting spells. The main one is they have to be holding tools, because that is their spellcasting focus. The default tool that they can use is the Thieves' Tools. Every Artificer has proficiency in Thieves' Tools, so they can use that. But alternatively, if they want to use another type of Artisan tool, such as Brewer's Tool or Alchemist's Tool, they can use that instead, as long as they have proficiency in that tool. In addition, at level 2, Artificers are able to infuse magic into items, and when they do that, they would be able to use the item that they've infused as a spellcasting focus in order to cast their spells. So, when we're talking about the Artificer, we're dealing with a couple numbers. Mainly is their intelligence modifier is their spellcasting ability. So, they're going to be using a lot of their intelligence on this, so you're likely going to want that to be the highest number that you have available for your spellcasting powers. You're going to have a spell attack bonus, which is equal to your intelligence modifier plus your proficiency bonus, and you'll also have your spell save DC, and that is your intelligence modifier plus your proficiency bonus plus 8. Oftentimes this lands right around the 13 mark. Artificers, as you'll see, are a little bit different than the other spellcasting classes, but first we're going to talk about the cantrips. In the build guide for Artificers, there is a table that tells how many cantrips the Artificer can have at each time. Cantrips, as we know, are free spells that you can cast without spending a spell slot. You can cast them as many times as you want, really. The Artificer at level 1 only knows 2 cantrips, though. And while most spellcasters gain cantrips pretty regularly as they level up, the Artificer has to wait a little while. At level 1, they have 2 cantrips, but they don't increase to 3 until level 10. And they don't increase to 4 until level 14. So you can see the progression in spellcasting for Artificers is much slower than any of the other spellcasting classes. In addition, every time the Artificer levels up, you can exchange one cantrip for another from the Artificer list. So be aware of that and just try to choose wisely what you will need coming up, because sometimes the time between levels can be a pretty long time. Getting into the more powerful spells that Artificers have available to them, unlike Wizards who have to have a spell book of spells that they've learned, the Artificer has all the Artificer spells available to them at any time as long as they are prepared in order for them to cast them. What this means is after a long rest, the Artificer can basically build a list of spells that are prepared for them to cast throughout the day, using the spell slots. And after every long rest, this list of prepared spells can be changed to include any others that are on the Artificer's list. So how many spells can you have prepared at any one time? This is dependent on your intelligence modifier and the Artificer level. The equation we're looking at for this is your intelligence ability modifier plus 1/2 your Artificer level, rounded down, unfortunately. So at level 5, if you have a +4 intelligence modifier and you are a level 5 Artificer, you're going to have 6 spells available for you to prepare. What levels can these spells be? That is entirely up to you. As long as you have a spell slot for a certain spell level, you can prepare any number of spells for that level. Casting spells for Artificers works the same as any other class. You have to have a spell slot available at a certain spell level in order to cast a spell of that level. The spell slot is kind of the renewable resource, but it does get expended at the end of a long rest. For Artificers, you do regain all of your spell slots, so that's pretty nice. Something to note about the Artificer and their spell slot progression, though, is that, again, they are very slow compared to the other classes out there. At level 1, the Artificer does have access to several level 1 spells, but they don't reach second level spells until they reach Artificer level 5. That's a really slow progression right away. In the same vein, they won't reach 3rd level spells until they hit Artificer level 9. They don't hit 4th level spells until they hit Artificer level 13, and they don't hit 5th level spells until you hit level 17, and that's as high as you go. you don't have access to 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th level spells. Where the Artificer makes up for this is the fact that they can infuse items with magic, they can store spells in certain items that can cast those spells repeatedly, and they also do have access to ritual spells. If you remember, rituals are spells that have a special tag in the books. It just says ritual next to them, and those you're able to cast as a ritual by spending 10 minutes. Essentially, it's kind of like reading the spell out of the book. It just takes a little longer, but you don't expend a spell slot to cast it. It's really useful, and Artificers have that available to them as well. As you can see, the Artificer, it is basic, but the whole concept behind this is instead of using your hands and casting a mystical, magical energy, you use your tools to tinker on something that then creates the effect. That's the flavor they're trying to go for. They are making it as it is a spellcasting class, but they want you to think of it in terms of physical objects and making a technology that can create that spell effect. So that is the Artificer. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it's been short and sweet and to the point and explanatory on this. Tomorrow we are talking about the Artificer's infusions and all the effects that those have available to you. I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.